So as you can see here, I've started going with the rocks. I kind of just brought a few over here just to see how it would look. And one thing led to another, and now I got a nice pile here. So I'm just gonna fill this in with stones underneath. All right, so the tar paper is on. And like I said, this is mainly just for a backdrop. Mainly it's just for this right here. So we have this look inside, you know, so it's a black backdrop. So a few people have questions about the headroom inside the cabin and are wondering why I didn't go a couple logs higher on the eave walls. And the reason is I didn't want to. I want this to be kind of the old, you know, like remote log cabin look. Like old trapper cabins, you know, they always had a really short door. Mine's actually fairly big, but they always had a shorter door and a shorter roof. So here's a couple of cabins I'll show you. You know, this one's Hymo Korth. You guys know him from The Last Alaskans. He was on that show. But you can see how small his door is there and how small the roof is. And then here again is Dick Prenike's. So you can see, you know, you kind of duck to go in, and then you can see how short his roof is. And the reason for that is for heat retention. You know, you lose all your heat out of your windows and your doors. So that's why those old log cabins kind of had a shorter door, so you duck to come in, so you're not losing as much heat. And then with the roof, shorter the roof, warmer it's going to be in there because heat rises. So and that's kind of the look I wanted to go with. So for the floor, I think I'm going to wait on that a little bit because I'm still trying to decide what I want to do. Because I want this to be built as cheaply as possible, but still comfortable. And I was going to do kind of like I said in my last video, how the Finlanders did it, and peel logs and put those, put some tar paper or birch bark underneath those and use those as my floor joists, and then do plywood over top of that. But I kind of want to use natural materials as much as possible on this. And like I said, I'm sitting at $100 on this build right now. So I kind of want to just keep the cost as low as possible. And obviously, you know, dirt floor, like I said, is the cheapest, and that's, you know, fine. I mean, there's plenty of log cabins that were built that way. And but I want to come up with something. I don't know if I want to do gravel, or you can do spruce boughs, which is pretty cool. A lot of people do those in wall tents. So you take a bunch of spruce boughs and just lay them out, and it kind of insulates the floor a little bit, and it's also very comfortable to walk on. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do that, because you do, but then you do have to swipe those out, or switch them out every so often, you know, when they get dirty, which isn't a big deal. But I think it would look really cool in here having that. And that's kind of how this build is going. I'm just kind of freestyling it. I knew I wanted to have the traditional log cabin look and kind of have the shorter roof, like I said, and all that. And I just want to make this thing as cool as possible, you know? I mean, the plywood floor is, nice. I mean, everybody kind of does that, but I kind of want it to be unique, so. All right, the front wall is chinked, so that's the finished product right there. I think that looks awesome. That's the look I'm going for. And now I'll go do the back gable wall and then the eaves, and then we'll have a sealed building. Here's a look from the inside. So as you can see, no daylight coming through, so we're sealed up nice. All right, well, I did run out of moss. I got almost to the end there, so I'll have to go harvest some more this evening, but I'll work on building the front door. All All right, so it looks like I can make this work here. And this is reclaimed lumber that I got from a building that was getting torn down. Could be about an inch wider, but I'll be able to make it work with the door jambs. So we'll just tack these together, real simple, and we'll have a door. I'll put tar paper on the back side of it just to prevent any wind from getting through the where the boards meet here, and I'll probably do a bead of silicone on it as well. All right, so the door's on. I used cabinet hinges. I know you're not, I mean, it's not really meant for this, but I had them, so I figured why not use them. And I like, you know, the door just kind of, look out, chicken. Guess they're all coming out. Come on. The door just kind of shuts on its own behind you, which is nice. So now I'll put in the door jamb around here, and then that way it'll stop right there, and that'll be that. I'm pretty happy with how this looks with the moss in between the rocks like this. I'm just trying to use as much wilderness, you know, materials as I possibly can. And I'll keep a bag around, you know, just in case some ever falls out or whatever and I have to stuff some more in there, you know, that's not going to be a big deal. So we're going to wrap up the roof. And for the roof, I'm still waiting on my metal because I want it to be white so it's the same color as the cabin that we live in. But they don't have it, or they don't have enough of them. And so I'm going to stain these logs eventually the same color as our cabin that we live in as well. But I got to wait, you know, a couple years until these are fully dry before I do that. So it's not going to match anyways. So I'm just going to go with an Alaskan roof for now. Very simple, just a tarp. That's it. Very common on remote log cabins, you know, trapper cabins, because obviously you're not going to haul metal roofing through the woods or fly in metal roofing to your remote cabin because it's very heavy. So a tarp works just fine as a roof. It'll last a year or two depending on the quality of the tarp. But that's all that we had on our remote log cabin, you know, that we stayed in pretty much that entire winter. Held up just fine, never had any issues with it, no leaks, nothing. Very simple, very practical. Like I said, you'll have to replace it. If you go with just a tarp, you're gonna have to replace it every year or two. You'll just have to keep an eye on it. But the tarp was $25. So that brought the total cost of this build up to $125. That's it. So I do have some of this plastic left over from when we were building the cabin here. I used it to cover the floor, you know, to keep the snow off it and rain off my floor until I got the roof on. And I'm gonna put that over the tar paper here because it'll actually help hold heat in a little bit. And since I have it, I figure why not just use it for an extra layer of protection. So this stuff's kind of expensive. This isn't the real heavy duty stuff. But I think a roll of this type that I have is like 35 bucks. But again, not necessary. You could just tarp this and call it good. But I'm just using it because I have it. And it's just gonna be an extra layer of protection for me. All right, so I'm gonna trim this off now. But let's say you didn't have plastic laying around. You could just do a tarp right over this tar paper and your building will still heat. It's just not going to hold heat. And even this isn't really going to do much, but like I said, I just had it, so I used it. But what I did on my remote log cabin is I put Reflectix right over the rafters like this, that bubble foil insulation. That's all I have in the roof of that, and it actually holds heat surprisingly well. And you guys have seen, I've been there, you know, minus 34, really cold nights, and I've never had any problem keeping that cabin at 80, 85 degrees. So that's a good way to insulate your roof if you want that extra insulation. But let's say you didn't, you're on a real tight budget and don't want to use the Reflectix or any other added insulation. You could just do a tarp right over, you know, your roof. But it's just not going to hold heat at all, you know. But if you have your wood stove going, the building is still going to be heated. You know, you think about a hot tent, you know, for winter camping, you know, there's no insulation in that. But if you have a stove going, you're going to be hot in there. So, the only problem is you're just going to have to stoke your stove more often, because as soon as it dies down, you're going to lose all your heat, because obviously with an uninsulated roof, it's not going to hold heat. But if you have a sealed up area, as long as your wood stove is going, you'll be warm. All right, I got my plastic trimmed all nice. So now we'll just get a tarp on this thing and we'll be done. For my roof, I chose brown. I think that looks the best. And you'll see with this thing on here that it won't look bad at all. I gotta rotate this thing. I just realized I put it on the wrong way. So at this point, this cabin is livable. I mean, you could absolutely live in this thing if you wanted to. And you guys will see, I'll show you guys this cabin throughout the winter here. I'll do some overnighters. We'll wait till it gets down to like 30, 40 below. And you guys will see that this thing will heat up just fine, and it'll be a warm, comfortable, dry place to hang out. As far as the floor goes, I mean, I just couldn't really justify building a wood floor for what I'm going to use this as. If you really wanted to do a wood floor or do plywood in there, I gave you several different options on how to do that. So if you want that on your cabin, go right ahead. For me, I could care less about it, so why spend the money? But I showed you several different ways you can go about it. The dirt floor in there, like I said, for what I'm going to use this as, isn't going to be any problem for me. And at any time I can build one, or I might do spruce boughs or, you know, beach gravel at some point. We'll see. But I mean, anytime I'm in here, I'm going to have shoes on. If I do spend the night or something out here, I'll just wear slippers. It won't be a big deal. As I mentioned, the #1 goal of this build was simplicity. For $125, this is a log cabin that will last longer than me. I'll be dead by the time this thing rots away. For just $125, I think that's awesome. As long as the logs are taken care of and they're sealed when they need to be with UV protection and water protection, they'll last a long time. With the tarp roof, just has to be replaced every couple years. It took about 2 minutes for me to throw a tarp on this thing and tack it down in a couple spots. Very simple. If I ever want to add metal roofing, I can do that too. But you guys will have to stay tuned. This is going to be the end of this series. Since it's all dried in now, it's sealed up, everything. I mean, this thing is good for the winter, as it is right now. But I'm going to combine all the parts of this series into one long video, as I normally do. So when you guys see a video pops up, you know, that's, you know, log cabin build from start to finish or whatever, just know it's the cabin that you just saw. Because last time I did that, a lot of people were like, oh, you just showed us all this stuff, what the heck? It's just nice for people in the future, down the line, 1 year, 2 years, 30 years from now, if YouTube's still around, then they can just watch the whole thing in its entirety and don't have to search and watch individual parts. But throughout the winter here, you guys are going to see a lot more of this. There's still things I want to do. Like I said, I want to add a window on the door. I need to outfit the inside with some nice countertops and all that for my workshop. And I'm going to be installing the wood stove in here very soon. But I appreciate you guys watching this series. $125, a livable cabin. Can't beat that.